Hello, I'm Caroline Hill, Editor-in-Chief of Legal IT Insider, and I'm joined by Josh Becker, Chairman of Lex Machina, who is running for Senate in the California, or for election to the California State Senate to represent Silicon Valley. Hi, Josh.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I murdered that as predicted. Thank you so much, despite your help before we went on air. Thank you so much for joining us. It's really exciting times for you. I think it's tomorrow, isn't it, that you officially begin your campaign in terms of leaving the legal tech profession?
Yeah, we've been, campaigning for a little while through the primary and but gearing up for the general. But yeah, after 9 years, I'll be leaving Lex Machina and LexisNexis. So tomorrow's a big day.
And I should say for anyone listening into this, because obviously they may be listening at any time tomorrow, it's the 30th of September. So it's been a great run. I mean, yeah, so you founded, I was just running through some of the history. I spoke to you many years ago, but certainly not right at the beginning, because you founded Lex Machina, it was 2006. Sorry, you weren't one of the founders. So Lex Machina was founded 2006, and you joined in 2011. Is that right? And you were from a VC background.
Well, see, it spun out. So it was a public interest project at
Yeah.
Stanford Law School from 2007 till kind of the very end of 2010. And it spun out at the end of 2010, and I took over in mid 2011. So yeah, I'd gone to Stanford. I had a JD MBA, but I had worked both in entrepreneurship, and then I had my own venture firm, investing only things that had a social mission. And then they asked me to come and take over as interim CEO, and that was 9 years ago.
Amazing. And it really, I mean, I remember all those. So actually, I've been writing since 2014. So actually, this is before my time. But even when I started writing, legal analytics was still, it was still an emerging technology. And it really has. You really have at Lex Machina elevated. So the concept of legal analytics. Would you say that it's mainstream yet? If zero is people aren't aware of it, 10 is sort of mainstream. Where would you say we are in terms of the scale of legal analytics adoption?
I think we're still probably around four, but that's really significant if you think where we are. I mean, people thought we were crazy. I mean, we came up with the term legal analytics and we trademarked it, but like the whole notion of it was still, people said, wait, you're going to sell data to lawyers and they're going to pay for it and use it? That's crazy. And and now, I mean, we've proved beyond a doubt that this will be just part of law going forward, and part of the legal landscape along with legal research and reasoning. But it's still, the adoption piece is, it's still, I'd say it's, that's why I say, probably a four, because we keep rolling out new federal modules, which now we're basically done, but now rolling out new state modules. And while we've had a number of other pretenders now to the legal analytics throne, I mean, no one has done state well, because it just takes a long time to really do it well in the way that we do it. So we're now just rolling out state, and that affects a lot more lawyers. And then, we really haven't taken it internationally. So there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, I remember. So obviously in the US, you're lucky to have Pacer. But it took me a while to understand exactly the level of work that goes into it. So obviously, in the UK, we don't have that level of data available in terms of the case law. So I know that there's an awful lot of work that goes on, isn't there? A huge amount of work in terms of taking it from the publicly available information to where you end up in terms of the ability to really perform analytics.
Exactly.
What would you say? So you orchestrated the acquisition by LexisNexis in 2015, which I think really accelerated the company's move into maybe making analytics more mainstream. What do you think in terms of, since you started working with Lex Machina, what do you think is the biggest milestone in terms of, if you milestone's a bit generalistic perhaps, but is there a milestone where you can say, actually, over the years that you've worked, actually that was the moment when I think that was a really huge moment for either the company or for analytics?
Well, it's funny. I mean, we started out just doing IP, really just patent law. And so I'd say, getting like 10 customers, I'd say, or even five. I'd say five. It's funny because I do run, as you know, the LexisNexis Legal Tech Accelerator. And I was just talking to company just right before this, and someone who was inspired by Lex Machina and to do it. He's doing his own legal tech company, and that's always just so fun to hear. Um, but you can always get one or two early adopters, but to get five, to get five law firms that are using it, getting value from it, then we felt it was repeatable, right? We felt like there's use cases that were consistent across a number of different firms, and we could see then the light at the end of the tunnel, that it was just really just a numbers game at that point, just being able to reach out to more and more firms and tell the story and tell the use case story, and eventually everyone would adopt. We knew it would take time, but eventually everyone will adopt if you can prove those use cases, which we did with the first 5 customers.
Yeah. And with the current environment that we find ourselves in, with COVID and lockdown, etc., so there's obviously going to be a spike in litigation. I think that's a given. I think we're already seeing that. Do you think? But equally, we're seeing kind of people being very safe in how they adopt technology. What's your sort of feel for how it will impact the way that people are using analytics? Do you think we'll see a spike? Do you think we'll see a decrease? What do you think will happen in terms of the impact of COVID?
I think we're seeing a spike. I do these interview shows myself, where I interview chief innovation officers, and I had a number of them from Paul Weiss and Simpson Thacher and Lucy from Reed Smith, actually, on, and a lot of them report that they've seen increases in innovation during this time. Maybe there's not as many distractions. Lawyers are at their computers, doing Zoom, and so training has been easier in some ways, and adoption has been greater for some new technologies. So I think early on in COVID, there was just a lot of back to basics and just getting Zoom set up at various firms and figuring out how people were going to communicate. But now that lawyers have had more time and fewer other distractions, there has been an increase in use, because they can just more and more folks can get trained on new technologies. And again, it's not just litigation analytics. Now we're seeing it with contract analytics and other areas too. And people, again, there's just more readiness for adoption actually during this time.
Okay, interesting. What do you think is going to be it already in itself is, as you said, the adoption is there's still, it's not like it's widely used by everybody. What do you think that what do you think the next leap is going to be in analytics? So just the very fact of analytics a few years ago was just the very fact that it existed. And obviously for you guys, it's been a broadening out of your capability. So you started off with a very, very sort of narrow scope, and actually the fact that you've broadened out is an achievement in itself. What do you think is going to be the next leap, though?
I'd say a couple things. One is for for young associates coming up, the fact that they be seen as leaders in their firms. And when I had Gina Lynch from Paul Weiss, Chief Innovation Officer, talking about her associates committee that she has, and when they see that their adoption of and use of new technology can help be something that propels them on at their firms, I'd say that's one. We're already seeing that today. And then just second, I think it's just a kind of a comfort level, and a desire to really explore the use, just like we saw in baseball, the U.S. analytics sort of became all the rage, and it was initially a big competitive advantage for the few firms that were adopting it. Then once everyone had it, then the question, how do you use it, right? Yeah. And that kind of gets to the training and the firm culture, and just having that real desire to play around with it, and to kind of dive and just test different things and say, oh, well, let me run this, these kinds of cases in front of this judge, this time period. Let me shorten the time period. Let me add in a couple, other parties. So just that kind of people having fun and playing around with it will kind of keep leading to more and more adoption.
And do you think so? One of the things that has perhaps caused the most controversy is about the clients, and you talked about this competitive side. So the clients using it potentially to drive selection. So, for example, if you were to compare law firms and their performance, that was one of, perhaps we've maybe got over the concept, but are you actually seeing that happening? Are you seeing the clients using it now as perhaps the basis for panels or whatever?
Yeah, we said from the beginning, lawyers use data to pitch companies, and companies use the data to evaluate law firms. And listen, there's always a place for relationships and comfort level and just experience, working with a different with a firm for a long time. But yeah, we do see more and more companies that are using the data, and they might say because oftentimes maybe they have. A number of firms they work with, and they say, okay, well, who's the right firm for this matter, right? Or who are firms that we should be considering that just are not part of our go-to group that we should be taking a look at based on our kinds of cases, right?
Yeah.
Based on where we have litigation and what type and which judges and who's out there that we're not even seeing, we don't even know,
Yeah.
and so we're seeing that happen a lot.
Is there a danger of it becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy? I mean, well, I know we haven't got forever, and I'm going to have to let you go, unfortunately, in a minute. But is there a danger that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and does that matter?
No, I don't think. Again, I think it's just adding one leg to the stool, right? We used to say that law was driven by anecdotes, right? Oh, I know
Mm.
that firm. I worked them on this one thing and this, and 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 so that the plural of anecdote is not data; it's anecdata, right? So, but adding some actual data to that selection and to overall law, we've seen only positive. Again, it's not going to eliminate other relationships. You might, and even making decisions, you may still make decisions you were going to make, but now it's a data-driven decision. And
Mm.
make a very different decision once you view the data. So again, it's just part of the picture, and we think a very positive one.
So, and then just lastly, yes, you co-founded. You already mentioned the Accelerator, so which you co-founded with Jeff Pfeiffer and Owen Bird.
Yeah.
And I know that you've mentored, I think it's 37 companies to date, which is pretty incredible. So what tech most impresses you in terms of you're seeing a lot of new tech, you're seeing a lot of new companies. What are you most impressed by at the moment?
I'm just impressed by the entrepreneurs. I mean, that's what makes me excited, and that's why we do this. We have 10 companies now, and just to hear them, their passion, they're all doing different things. Some are actually doing, B2C. I mean, or some are trying to help public defenders' offices comb through the, thousands and thousands of hours of video that to, find the right moment for that'll help them. Um, some are helping people some are corporate law departments, which is an area of technology that particularly appeals to me. Some are helping people do with personal injury claims. So some are helping people get child support payments. So it's just it's really working with those entrepreneurs and their excitement, their passion. That's what makes me excited.
Listen, it's been really great chatting to you, and we wish you the best of luck. And thank you so much for joining me. We look forward to
Great, thank you.
catching up when you're in politics.
Okay, good. I know new dimensions, but this has been a lot of fun, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Josh.